It is often said in life that that which gives us pleasure also gives us pain. And the inverse is true. Sometimes that which gives us pain can eventually end up giving us pleasure. So it should not be surprising that these sexual organs, which are designed to give us physical pleasure, that give us moments of ecstasy and euphoria and beautiful connection with other people and with ourselves, can also cause us a tremendous amount of turmoil, a lot of angst, a lot of frustration, a lot of heightened emotions. Emotions that aren't particularly comfortable or easy. Whether it has to do with function, not getting it up when you hope to, or not lasting as long as you'd like, or size, or unwanted erections in the wrong places, our penises can bring us a lot of stress, anxiety, depression even. We're going to talk more about it. But I think the deeper issue is around what it means to be a man and how men are expected to show up in contemporary society. So hey y'all, nice to be here with you. If we haven't met before, my name is Kaelan, and I am a spiritual coach. I help others on their journey home to connect with their radiant, ecstatic, joyful selves. I have written a couple books, I host this YouTube channel, and I work with people one-on-one around the world, as well as hosting in-person retreats. So at some point earlier in your life, as a penised individual, you discovered the joys that it could bring you. Probably around the time you started puberty, you started to explore self-pleasuring, orgasms, eventually ejaculation, and it probably was amazing. It was fully bodily consuming with these waves of ecstasy that could almost feel like they knock you off your feet, and it became something that you felt called to do a lot. Some people several times a day even. But maybe then you got a little bit older and started to realize that that arousal, those erections were happening in places where you didn't necessarily want them. In the locker room, for example. There's actually a song in a musical called My Unfortunate Erection, which is precisely on that topic. And then you also perhaps start seeing other people's penises, either in a changing room, in gym class, maybe when you start consuming pornography, starting to see performers online. And you start to realize that yours doesn't look like everyone else's. It's thinner, thicker, longer, shorter, it's cut, it's uncut. Suddenly you start to realize like, maybe mine isn't right. Maybe mine is supposed to be different. I don't think it really matters where you fall on the scale of size, shape, being circumcised or not. There will be people who make you feel like you are different or you are wrong or you are bad before you maybe even ever have had sex with anyone. But just that peer pressure around looking a certain way, conforming to some sort of ideal. And then of course we do end up having sex, and then there's that feeling of expectation. Are you satisfying your partner? Are you able to stay erect for as long as your partner would like? Are you able to perform to their expectations? A lot of stress and anxiety can come around our penises for that. And then especially for certain segments of the population, size really comes into play because we've attached this idea that masculinity is tied to physical size, that men are expected to take up more space, be more demonstrably masculine, that we're supposed to be bigger and hairier and more jacked and more hung, and if you have those attributes, you are given more worth. And of course, a large part of how our bodies show up in the world is purely genetic. Like even if you did everything right, exercise, eating well, you'll still never look like your neighbor. You'll never look exactly like someone else. I think it's actually just really fascinating to look at the shape and proportions of different human bodies because it's much more varied than advertising or television or social media would make us think. Like I'll sometimes look at people's bodies and see their ratios, see how their bones are shaped, see how they're all put together and be like, whoa, it's amazing that we're so closely genetically related because this looks like somebody completely different from me. What would it be like to be in their body? And I think it's really unfortunate that we tie this idea of masculine worth to size, to performance abilities. And like I said, it isn't just about our dicks. Like you can remember when you were younger, the boys who were the tallest, the most muscular, the best at sports were given social cred. They were told that they were more masculine and more valuable. It's a thing in contemporary society, at least as far as I've observed it, that masculinity is not something that's just given, it's something that has to be proven or something that has to be earned. That you have to show you're masculine, you have to earn that credit. Just because you were born signed male at birth doesn't necessarily mean people will validate your masculinity. Me, for example, growing up, I was constantly told I wasn't masculine enough. I was never invited into the boys' club. I was too queer. I was too thin. I was too gangly. I was too uncoordinated. I wasn't mean enough or tough enough or rough and tumble enough to be included in the boys' groups. And it led to feelings of dysmorphia. It led me to feelings of never being good enough, never being masculine enough, never being big enough, never being blank enough to be considered a man. It certainly doesn't help that we don't have a lot of good masculine role models in today's world. It certainly doesn't help that many of us don't have fathers who give us the love and care and support and initiation into manhood that we need. I also think that it's really sad that we don't have a demarcation point that invites us into adulthood. Most traditional cultures have a ceremony, a rite of passage, a ritual of some kind that says, hey, you are welcomed now into the bonds of brotherhood of the man tribe, and now you are a part of things. I think without that, it leaves us feel wanting. It leaves us feeling a little bit like a man child in some ways. And so this friend downstairs that started off as just being this amazing tool to bring us joy, suddenly is a source of tremendous anxiety. That we just aren't man enough. We're just not good enough. And as you continue having sexual partners, if you are having more than one, chances are pretty good you're going to end up with a partner who isn't the kindest. That probably they say or do something that make you feel a little invalidated. I know I've, in my past, had sexual partners who have made comments about me that made me feel inadequate. And it's not nice, it's not good, but humans are messy and that does happen from time to time. And then, of course, we continue on, we continue to grow older, and we reach a point where our penises don't do what we want them to. They don't get as hard, they don't stay erect for as long, they don't perform on cue in the same way. We become more sensitive to certain partners, and somebody who we thought we were attracted to, we can't get it up for them, and we feel emasculated, we feel invalidated. There is a lot of research to show that when men lose their ability to produce consistent erections, the chance of depression or even suicidal ideations goes up tremendously. Because our identity is so tied in with this ability to perform, this idea that we are, part of our role as men is to be this penetrative partner to provide pleasure for others. And that if we can't do that, are we even men anymore? Do we still have worth to society? And I want to put a pause here for a moment and just say that clearly the role of men in sexual environments is not just to be the penetrative partner. There are many different ways to have sex. You can masturbate, you can have oral sex, you can be penetrated with a toy or with fingers or with another person's body parts. A man's role as a sexual being is not just limited to giving penetration. But I think it's really terrible how closely we've yoked that idea of being the penetrative partner to man's sexual roles, because it also gives prejudice towards us. I saw a poster not too long ago that said, if a man and a woman are both drunk and both regret having a sexual encounter, the man is at fault. He is the rapist and can be prosecuted for taking advantage of the other partner, purely because typically in sex, the man's body enters another person's body. Whether the man wanted to have sex or not doesn't matter. But this idea that somehow because we are the penetrators, we are the aggressors is a really unfortunate thing. There was no equality there. We're not seen as an equal sexual partner. We're seen as something dangerous, something that has to be controlled. And I get there's been a lot of conversations around men taking responsibility for their bodies, and I completely agree. You are always responsible for your own actions. But just because we have the equipment to insert into somebody else does not necessarily mean that we are automatically at fault. And that's a larger conversation that we as a society need to start grappling with, is saying, yes, men can be raped by women. Men can be raped by other men. Men can be raped in general, even if they are still the ones doing the penetrating. But this idea that men are supposed to just be these quote-unquote fucking machines. They're just supposed to get hard, stick it in, do their business. They don't have a lot of feeling, and they're just supposed to fulfill a role, is pretty much ingrained in societal views and then ingrained in the laws as being less emotional, less concerned, less vulnerable. And so when men articulate feelings of inadequacy, feelings of concern about their bodies, about their penises, about their performance, it's considered emasculating. We're just supposed to suffer in silence. And so there's so much more support for women around their bodies and around sexual experiences and their gender identities. But that's not something men are given the space to talk about. I mean, our identities as men are so often linked to our penises. Did you know that when a soldier is in battle and is near an explosion or gets caught with some shrapnel, the very first thing he will do is check to make sure his dick is still there. Before he makes sure his limbs are still attached or functional, is my pecker still in place? Like, how fucked up is that? We need to create spaces for men to have more meaningful conversations about their bodies, their feelings about them, the roles that they're expected to play in society, whether they're heterosexual or homosexual or bisexual or whatever, it doesn't matter. But to realize that these things are difficult to process and difficult to talk about. Here's the bigger conversation that also needs to be had. Is around the fact that so long as your sense of worth as a person, as a man, as a human being, is tied to something transient, whether it's the function of your penis, your body, your career, your income, things that will change. It doesn't matter how good you are, how fit you are, how successful you are, those things will change, guaranteed over time. And if your worth is tied to something transient, what do you do when then it's gone? Because if you live long enough, you will lose your health. You will lose the function of your penis. You will lose your muscle tone. You will lose the function of your bodily systems and organs and mobility. You will lose your mind. You will lose your career. You will lose everything. And how tragic would it be to have to continue on living when the things you tied your sense of self-worth to have disappeared? I'm watching my father, who is 84 years old, recently suffered a stroke, go through this very process. He's now home with no work, nothing to do, hardly able to function with his body in the way that he used to. And what's left? What's left for him to live for? It's hard for him to feel like he has anything of value. Whereas if we tied our self-worth to something deeper, something internal, our soul stuff, that we knew we were valuable, that we were deserving, that we were lovable, regardless of our fitness, regardless of the function of our penises, regardless of any of those things, then we'll have a much happier life. So this is my encouragement to you. I want you to start seeing your body as something sacred and holy. And I also want you to recognize that this is a temporary vessel that we walk around in. You are not this body. You are not this mind. You are the observer of both. If you can watch your thoughts, then you are not your thoughts. You are something deeper. And if we start to identify with that eternal quality inside and realize we have lived as many different bodies, we have lived as many different races, we've lived as all genders, all professions, all body sizes and shapes, all penis sizes and shapes, and start to say, this is an amazing tool I get to run around in for 60 years, 80 years, 100 years, 20 years, doesn't matter, but it's not who I am. If we start decoupling our sense of self-worth and identity from this physical meat suit, then we can create a more lasting sense of wellness and well-being in the long run, which will serve us all so much better. Because these lives are temporal. These lives will be over before we know it. And if you talk to somebody who's lived many decades, they will tell you the time goes faster than you could possibly imagine. So what if we create a world where all men are invited into the club of masculinity, regardless of their performance, regardless of their outward appearance, regardless of how masc or femme they are. If you identify as a man, cool, welcome to the club. And what if we realize that we are all on a journey towards self-actualization, towards quote-unquote enlightenment, whatever that might mean, but this sense of wholeness, this sense of finding our truth, finding belonging, and that we appreciate each other's bodies for what they are, but realize that that's not their truth. To not feel entitled because we have a more muscular body, or we have a bigger dick, or we have a dick that can stay hard for 25 hours straight. Which, if you have a dick that stays hard for 25 hours straight, that's a pre-opism, and you really need to go see a doctor very quickly before you have long-term injuries. But to just create a kinder, more compassionate, more accepting world for all of us. Because all of us are doing the best we can with what we've been given. We may not have been given the prettiest meat suit to walk around or the most functional meat suit to walk around in. But that doesn't mean we aren't deserving of respect, dignity, love, and kindness. Because we all are. Every sentient being is worthy of those things. And so can you extend that compassion to yourself and to others as best as is possible? I want to pause the video here for a second, guys, to talk about a product. And I don't typically ever do sponsored videos, but this company reached out to me, and I'm actually a big believer in their products, and I thought it was the perfect sponsor for today's topic. As we've been talking about ED and size and anxiety it causes, I have used Bathmate penis pumps myself over years and have seen really positive results from them. They are made in the UK, so they're not mass produced in countries with poor labor laws, so you know that you're getting a product that is supporting local economies. And it was designed to help guys with erection issues, and then realized that also helped improve size over time. I like water pumps better than air pumps, and this is the market leader in water pumps because of the added pressure that the water gives over air. So it causes less fluid buildup in the penis, and over time creates a more positive experience. My urologist says that guys should use a penis pump multiple times a week to ensure that they consistently get good blood flow, because as we get older, we get less frequent erections, especially nocturnal erections, which are so important. And if you do not get maximum erections every day, functionality and size will continue to decrease. So I'm a huge advocate for Bathmate. I think it's a wonderful tool to add to your arsenal, and I'm actually very proud to have them as a sponsor today. So check out their site. I have a link in the video description, and I couldn't recommend them anymore. I've been really pleased with them in my own experience. They come in a variety of sizes, so you just enter your current dimensions on the website and they'll hook you up with the correct one for you. We do what we can to have the best life possible. And as we continue along the journey, we really stop to reflect on, why am I doing the things I'm doing? How can I do them better? Why am I feeling this way? What do I need to change? And to start decoupling our worth and our self-understanding from what society has told us. Because our society is not well, guys. We are not in a great place as a human race in this moment. There's so much callousness, war, anger, frustration, confusion, unkindness. And if we just keep unconsciously following what the media and the people in charge tell us, we'll never be happy. We'll never be well. We have to do the internal work to find our peace, to find our joy, and to find our bliss. These dicks we've got should be nothing but a source of joy. And if they're not giving you joy, then what can you do to find that peace? I've created a lot of other videos on YouTube on this topic, from my own journey exploring penis size increasing to how to have a happy relationship and turn your penis into your best friend. I recommend checking those videos out if this is a conversation you want to go deeper in. But I'm just grateful to have these conversations, because I don't hear this kind of discourse happening anywhere else about the role of men, what we're supposed to be, how we connect with our bodies, and how we create greater joy within ourselves. So thank you for joining me in this conversation. If you find this useful, please do me a favor. It helps the analytics. Hit the like button, drop a comment, share this with someone who you think will find value in it. I put a lot of heart and soul into these videos and the work I do here on YouTube. We're approaching almost 4 years here, and that's absolutely nuts to me. I love getting to have these conversations. I hope you enjoy them as well. Thank you so much for your time, heart, and energy. I'm sending you much love wherever you are in the world.